Before we go any further, just want to say today's video is going to be brought to you by Fandomion. If you want to buy some really awesome anime merch from My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan, and Haiku, and so many other anime, I recommend using my link in the description box to check them out. And there's free worldwide shipping on orders over $39. You'll also get an additional 5% off using my promo code down below. For any of you guys who might be interested or on the fence, I highly recommend checking out their website. Pay attention to the size chart. That'd be the biggest thing I would tell you guys. But with that being said, though, let's jump back into today's video. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto Naruto Next Race discussion on the fallout from Boruto Chapter 80. And today I want to bring up something that I saw down in the comment section a while back, which is whether or not Kawaki is going to end up having to fight Sarada and Mitsuki at some point after the time skip, because there's this belief among a lot of fans that Mitsuki is going to put 2 and 2 together, and when he does, Mitsuki is going to go after Kawaki's neck, because as we all know, when it comes to Mitsuki's little Jougan princess, there's nobody that Mitsuki won't put hands on if the situation called for it. However, how likely is it that we get to that point that a lot of fans want to see happen? I put this in the camp of it's not impossible, but it is going to take some hoops in order to jump through in order for us to get to this point. But at some point, I do think that this battle is coming after the time skip. I don't think we can necessarily go the route of Mitsuki wakes up one day and says, oh my god, my mind's playing tricks on me. What I'm seeing is not actually what it should be, because if we take the information we were told about the Shinjutsu, the longer it's in effect, the more people are to likely look past the things that should bother them, because the things that they know shouldn't be the way that they are, they just accept it. We saw as much when Mitsuki is looking at Boruto bleeding out from the scar over his eye, which shouldn't have been there, because in Mitsuki's mind, that scar should be on Kawaki, and Mitsuki still wanted to put hands on Boruto and he tried to kill him. When you tack on the years of being under the influence of the Shinjutsu, that's going to be near impossible for that epiphany moment that a lot of fans want to see occur. Instead, we need something else to get us that point, a more organic route, and for that, I do think that Sarada might end up having to be a key for that. While Mitsuki is very attentive to Boruto and watches him extremely closely, he's also shown to have a good grasp on his teammate Sarada as well. Even if he's under the impression that Kawaki has always been his teammate, Mitsuki's going to pick up on the change in behavior that Sarada has around Kawaki, even if she's able to hide it from Kawaki that she hasn't been affected by the Shinjutsu, and even if Ada doesn't slip up and say anything about Kawaki. Throughout all the versions of Boruto's story, one thing that has been consistently remarked upon is the fact that Sarada, when she's around Boruto, her mannerisms change. She gets more feminine than she normally is when she's around him. And in the light novels written by Ukyo Kodachi, the former writer for Boruto, those novels that wrote and expanded on the anime arcs we got in Boruto's anime, Kodachi more than once either had the narrator or another character in universe like Chocho or Mitsuki remarked that Sarada's face grew softer whenever she was in Boruto's presence, and one of those people who picked up on those changes around Boruto happened to be Mitsuki. We even saw in the manga how Mitsuki was asking Sarada, why can't she be more open about her feelings when it comes to Boruto? Mitsuki is likely going to notice that something is off with Sarada when she's around Kawaki. I do believe that's what's going to be the one thing that starts this whole process of Mitsuki figuring out that something's wrong. It won't necessarily be that Kawaki's behaving in a way that is not associated with Boruto per se, but I do think there stands a chance that Kawaki does something in the future that makes it clear that Mitsuki is seeing something that is out of place. At the end of the day, Ada's Shinjutsu to alter the memories of everyone is the true form of her enchantment power to control her love slaves. One captures the heart and the other one captures the memory of a person. We've seen that there are outliers to her control powers. Shikamaru was a straight up simp for Ada, but he found the lines of how far he could push her control without triggering what Amato said would result in the mind destroying itself if he tried to override the command and inflict lethal harm on Ada, which is why when he tried to raise that kunai towards her, he experienced the pain that he did. However, when he was aware that he was under Ada's enchantment control, Shikamaru found the exact line he could walk without triggering it by the communication via the Yamanaka clan's hidden jutsu to link the minds of people talking, and by formulating a backup plan to have Ada killed because it was indirect. It did not trigger any of the side effects for Shikamaru that we saw previously. I think that's going to have to be the same thing for Mitsuki. He's not going to be able to directly oppose the Shinjutsu, telling him Kawaki is Naruto's son and Boruto is Naruto's killer. He's going to have to do what Sasuke did, which is either accept the Shinjutsu telling him that this is reality, and instead, when he does inevitably pick up on Sarada's change of behavior, and when he does confront her about it, he's going to have to take Sasuke's stance, which is not saying she's wrong, but trust into Sarada and let things play out in a way that could prove her correct. Indirect resistance to what the Shinjutsu says is reality is likely what's going to have to be the key for Mitsuki. Orochimaru pulling up his memories isn't going to work because, as we've already established, the Shinjutsu tells you ignore the things that should stand out as wrong, like how Mitsuki saw Boruto's scar and Sasuke sensed Momoshiki inside of Boruto, when according to the Shinjutsu, the scar should be on Kawaki and that chakra of Momoshiki should be inside of Kawaki as well. Sasuke, upon realizing what was wrong, had to consciously keep working to suppress it and stated it was getting harder as more time went on. I think that we're really going to have to pay very close attention how Sasuke's acting after the time skip. If he's accepting Boruto as Naruto's son, and most importantly, he's verbally referring to him as being Naruto's son, we might have our answer to the resistance to the Shinjutsu, which means that it's just like Ada's trauma control. The resistance has to be indirect. However, regardless as to if this is correct or not, the idea that Mitsuki and Sarada end up being some of the first people who engaged Kawaki in battle because something, whatever it actually is that happens, puts Kawaki in a position where his secret is at risk of being exposed. They're strong candidates to fight him first because we have the narrative set up for this. Some of the very first people who noticed the change occurring inside of Kawaki, where you saw the signs he was beginning to crave the power of the Karma Seal, came when we saw Team 7 training together. When Kawaki snapped on Team 7, saying that Jigen's path to power was better than the way that the shinobi seek power, small hints were given that showed that Kawaki was regressing. I think just as that moment ended up being one of the first cracks in Kawaki, the same is going to be true for the fight that leads to Kawaki taking on Sarada and Mitsuki again. The only question is, does this fight, which is a serious fight and not a sparring match like what we got before, does this fight allow for the same pattern as the one from before, where Mitsuki ends up engaging Kawaki first and then we see Sarada engage Kawaki in battle, and it ends with Boruto coming out of nowhere to engage Kawaki head up in the fight? Narratively, it offers a chance to show how far Mitsuki and Sarada have actually come, with both of them training for the specific purpose of being strong enough to fight against Otsutsuki. It gives you a realistic idea how far they went with their training, with Mitsuki training for the purpose of getting revenge on Boruto for what he believes is the murder of Naruto and the attempted murder of Kawaki, and with Sarada training to become stronger to fight alongside Boruto to prove his innocence and that Kawaki's the one who framed Boruto. I think this fight, should it happen, has potential to be a good precursor to the fight with Boruto for a major literary reason. The reason why those who walk the path of the tyrant, and for this example I'm using the word tyrant loosely so don't take it literally, but the reason why those who walk the path of a tyrant ultimately fail is because the house or the empire that they build always crumbles. The reason being is that no house or empire that's built on a foundation of cracked skulls and blood can actually stand, and will always come crumbling down when the right crack in that foundation is discovered or exploited. I think you're in a similar situation, except this time when the battles that takes place, because we're further on in the series and the stakes are higher than deciding who's going to dictate the path forward moving for training, it's going to start with Kawaki eventually having to come to a reckoning with the sins of his past by knowingly taking advantage of the situation of the Shinjutsu to pretend he's Naruto's son, lie to everyone about Naruto being dead, and trying to have Boruto killed in the process. I don't think this is a moment that we can look at and say is going to be the moment that leads to Konoha being destroyed, but I do think if this is actually part of the precursor that leads to a village being nuked, I don't think this ends up being a bad idea. In fact, I think it's one that makes quite a bit of sense from a narrative perspective if we look purely at a payoff for what we could be getting. I think the other thing we have to consider when it comes to any fight that takes place is what it needs to be that doesn't make it feel like the mistake of the last fight that we saw with their sparring match, where it has Sarada and Mitsuki basically being spectators of this fight. It would go in the face against what their entire goal was for their time skip training, which is to become strong enough to stand against an Otsutsuki level threat alongside Boruto, so they aren't actually being left behind. That's actually not as outlandish as some people might actually think. Otsutsuki level threat doesn't mean they gotta get as strong as Boruto and Kawaki. It means being strong enough to fight against someone like Momoshiki and Kenshiki. It's not crazy to say that Sarada and Mitsuki have a higher floor than the ceiling of the 4 Kage, who were able to gang up on and fight off base Momoshiki and Kenshiki with a fatigued Sasuke occasionally helping them. Sarada and Mitsuki's ceilings are higher. I think you have to have this fight leaving fans walking away from it, being able to respect Sarada and Mitsuki even after they fail to defeat Kawaki, because if they're able to land hits or force Kawaki into a defensive to a point where he has to use the full Karma transformation where he sprouts out that horn in order to take them down, it's a clear sign they're getting stronger. If they're able to fight off Kawaki when he's using the base Karma Seal amp with no horn, that puts respect on their names as well. However, if they get yeeted immediately, like how Sai did, like when he had his moment in the 4th Great Ninja War and was all sitting there saying, I'm a member of Team 7 as well, and he ended up getting yeeted by one of those Ten Tails clones that were on the battlefield, that takes a bigger dump on their character growth than Mariah Mills getting Zion Williamson's name tattooed on her face, even though she's a glorified side piece who wasn't able to get a main chick status, so now she's out here embarrassing herself. I don't think we need that same level of embarrassment for Sarada and Kawaki. They deserve better from a narrative perspective. I'm curious to know if you guys think Sarada and Mitsuki will be the first ones to face Kawaki after he slips up, or do you think Sarada and Mitsuki will be allowed to show off the power progression another way, similar to how I'm showing you guys this Black Clover chapter review on the screen right now.